Okay, so let's dig into the 2024 Dynasty wide receiver rankings and let's find out who might be the deepest wide receiver we can find that we could confidently say has a shot. Not a lock by any means, but confidently say has a shot at being the number one overall Dynasty wide receiver. This is going to be interesting because this isn't something that's going to, I think, settle well with everybody because they're going to go, how can you have blah, blah, blah as the wide receiver? We're not saying they're the wide receiver one. We're not suggesting that anybody go draft this player we deem to be the deepest potentially capable wide receiver one. It is merely wide receiver one overall. It's merely an exercise to say, hey, who might be the deepest sleeper here on the wide receiver rankings for the 2024 fantasy football season? That's what this is really about, because we're going to define some value, hidden value. We're going to be talking about players that might have an ability to climb up wide receiver ranking boards. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios, it's the Dynasty Fantasy Football Show.
Yo, welcome to the Dynasty Fantasy Football Show. I'm your man, Smitty. And right now we're looking at JJ. He's the number one Dynasty wide receiver. He's the king of the hill, as we also kind of call this show, this segment. And we're going to dig as deep as we can down the wide receiver rankings and try and figure out which wide receiver might be. It's a small chance. It's just to identify talent. Might be the wide receiver one. We're going to continue to go down the rankings and say yes or no. And so JJ's the king, clearly. Could Jamar Chase be wide receiver one? Abso-freaking-lutely. Okay, so that's not a stretch. CeeDee Lamb, 100%. Amon-Ra St. Brown, absolutely. Like, will he be? Probably not, but could he be? Abso-freaking-lutely. Again, this exercise is not that difficult when we're at the top five. And A.J. Brown, from a dynasty perspective, no. From a redraft, we could say, could he be one or two or three? He could be. But in dynasty, no. He's an older player. His knees he's not that old. Ziggy, how old is A.J. Brown? Let's see how old he is.
A.J. Brown is 26 years old and was born on June 30th, 1997.
Ziggy off. Turning 27, right? Turning 27 here before the season starts. He can't have that guy as Dynasty wide receiver one. But could he play like that for 1 year? Maybe, but he's not somebody we're going to land on here. Garrett Wilson. These are Dynasty rankings. These are consensus Dynasty rankings. These are not my rankings. We are using consensus Dynasty rankings. Your boy has guys like Devontae Smith much higher. Your boy has guys like, where is even, they don't even have the rookies in here. Where's Marvin Harrison Jr.? I mean, I don't even know if we can really even use this list, but we'll go down and through the list. This is the Dynasty rankings, a consensus data, a grip of rankings, but we'll have to makeshift it.
Something went wrong.
Ziggy, shut up. Okay, so Garrett Wilson, could he be wide receiver one in Dynasty? I suppose, yeah. I think he could be. I think he probably won't be, but there's a small chance he could be, so we're not done yet. We're basically going to go down this list until we find the final player that we feel comfortable enough saying they could potentially become the best wide receiver in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And keep in mind, if you're like, oh no, there's nobody below here that can do it, keep in mind how CeeDee Lamb looked about a year and a half ago. Very big prospect, but no one in their right mind thought he could go as wide receiver one. And a lot of Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. Hit that promo code if you would. Code Smitty will get you up to $100 on your first deposit. So if you deposit $100 your first time, they'll give you $100. You deposit $10, the minimum, they'll give you $10. So you have $20 to play with. But Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty. We've seen CeeDee Lamb go number one overall, like constantly. Not all the time, but it's consistently. And so just kind of think back to that. So when we say Garrett Wilson, Dynasty wide receiver one, it might seem, okay, maybe not, right? But you don't know what his progression is going to look like. You don't know what he's going to look like with Aaron Rodgers. You don't know if they're going to draft Penix Jr. in the second round to protect themselves, and then all of a sudden they got a future quarterback as well. We have no idea, but there's certainly possibility of this happening. So we're not stopping here. Garrett Wilson is certainly in the cards for this, but not likely, but in the cards. Tyreek Hill, too old, but in redraft he could finish as wide receiver one. Puka Nacua absolutely could. I don't think he will. I think he's more like a 4 to 7 guy, 4 to 8 guy, which is fantastic. Nobody's Puka to the moon, but like, is he wide receiver one guaranteed in Dynasty? No. Could he be? Sure. So we're not going to end here. Ayuk, I would say no, not one, but he has the potential to be really, really high. Olave, quarterback would have to totally reshape this whole vibe. I think he's got the talent, but I don't think he's set up at all to be wide receiver one. But this will be an intriguing question to ask next offseason. If, let's say, as of the filming of this, there's been, obviously no Justin Fields movement or NFL draft. If his quarterback situation is not Derek Carr and it's like Penix Jr., or it's going to be potentially they trade for Justin Fields, whatever, Russell Wilson, who the hell knows what it could be, then we have a different conversation. It'll be interesting. Waddle, no. I'm not going to put him there. Pittman Jr., no. I like these guys, if they're in the right spot. Like Ayuk, Waddle, Pittman, I'm not trying to disrespect them, but they're not wide receiver one potential overall. I'm not talking fantasy football wide receiver ones like 1 through 12. I'm talking about number one overall. No. Ayuk, no. Waddle, no. Pittman Jr., no. T. Higgins, no. Devontae Smith, probably not. I got to be fair. If I'm not going to put Ayuk in this category, I can't put Devontae Smith. DK, probably not. DJ Moore, probably not. Rashee Rice, not number one, but like good. Are we running out? The last person we said yes to was Puka Nacua, right? Is that where we fall off and say there's no more? Let's just take a little gander down here and see if there's anybody else we might be potentially interested in. Now, we got to throw the rookies in here in a second. Marvin Harrison Jr., we'll get to him. Yeah, let's do that now. Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver one capable overall, abso-freaking-lutely. Malik Neighbors, maybe. Adunze, you don't know. You really don't know. Puka Nacua, you would have laughed at that. A lot of people liked him. We liked him in the offseason in terms of best ball, but no one in their right mind would have said yes. Number one wide receiver potential walking into his rookie year, nobody. So Adunze and Neighbors, I think you never know. I would say, let's say yes to Marvin Harrison Jr., capable of being number one. Let's say Neighbors, like a loose nod. Yeah, maybe. Okay, but that's better than like Ayuk and Devontae Smith, and so he gets a potential nod. Okay, JSN, not wide receiver one overall, but very, very good. Zay Flowers, not wide receiver one. Nico, look, the sky's the limit for him, but I don't know that I could say one. Woo! Here's one. So Marvin Harrison Jr. and Puka Nacua are the last two potential guys that we've identified as potentially capable. And quite honestly, when you look at where Marvin Harrison Jr.'s ranking is probably above Puka Nacua. So actually, Marvin Harrison Jr. isn't the last guy that we said yes to. It was still Puka Nacua, okay? Because Marvin's going to slot it up here. And Neighbors, I don't know. Let's just take Neighbors out for right now. It doesn't feel like we need to throw him into this number one overall. But is he going to be good? He's going to be really good. Puka's the last guy that we said yes to because we're slotting MHJ above that. Okay, so Puka, let's see if we can find anybody else. Puka Nacua, number 9. Drake London. God, I'm so excited about Drake London. I want to say he could develop into something near this good, like wide receiver 4, 5, maybe 3. It's possible. Who's throwing the ball to him? If we assume they get Fields or Penix Jr. or Russell Wilson or something like that, again, we have no answers for that. I'm going to say, God, it's close because this is a guy that excites me, but is he? No, he's not wide receiver one. But God, I hesitated. Tank Dell, I want to hesitate on that, but he's not going to be wide receiver one. Addison, there's no way he can be with JJ on the team, but this is a good player. Diggs, he's washed. Adams, no. Debo, too old. Reed, no. I like Reed a lot. No. Cooper Kupp, no. Okay, so it really does come down to the last player we said yes to. According to the consensus data, and assuming we throw MHJ into the top 3 or 4 wide receivers, to be frank. We can't just throw rookies in last because that doesn't really equate to the last wide receiver we said yes to. We said yes to St. Brown. We said yes to Garrett
motherfucking Wilson.
We said no to Tyreek because he's old. We said yes to Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua is the last wide receiver. JSN we said no to, but we liked him. Devonta Smith, very close, but no, it's Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua and Garrett Wilson, congratulations. You two are the deepest 2 wide receivers I could potentially say could be wide receiver 1 in the future. Could be, not expected to be, but could be. And just kind of, why do this? Hey, Smitty, what in the hell is the point of this exercise? The point of this exercise is to really kind of delve deep into the wide receiver position, and maybe this gives you some sort of insight to say, you know, if you're drafting at 4 and everybody tells you got to go heavy wide receiver in Dynasty, maybe now you just say, what if I do go Breece Hall? What if I do go Bijan? Can I get value that can climb up and surprise some people and become the CeeDee Lamb? Because again, a year and a half ago, CeeDee Lamb was not even remotely close to the top 3 overall, even though he was rising, on the rise, top 10 to 12 overall, top 14 overall, top 12 overall material. But could you like draft a Bijan and then a year and a half later be sitting there holding the number 3 overall pick in this player, Puka Nacua, and then have both of them? That's the whole point of the exercise. Can you get the next CeeDee Lamb beforehand and draft a running back, or whatever the case may be? Draft 2 wide receivers and have 2 of them that are potentially in the top 3 or 4 overall because you were astute enough to see the value and the upside of the player we're talking about. Thank you for joining me on a little special who is the deepest player at their position that could be number 1 at their position episode. Maybe we'll do running back next. Appreciate you. Get out of here.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios, it's the Dynasty Fantasy Football Show.